Happy morning, children. Here is your Geeta Rani ma'am with one more new lesson from the section of history, and that is how, when, and where. So before I could begin the lesson, let us to discuss about some simple questions. Okay, children, tell me, when do you celebrate your birthday? Do you remember? Yeah, you will remember very well. What about your friends' birthdays? Yeah, that too you know very well. Okay, let us to speak about some general things. When do we celebrate Independence Day? That is 15th of August of every year. What about Republic Day? 26th of January. Children's Day? 14th of November. Teachers Day? 5th of September. Okay, these are common things that we celebrate every year so that it is easy to remember. Now tell me, when the First World War had on? It is on 1914, in the year of 1914. What about Second World War? 1938 to 1945. Exactly. How do you remember all these things? It is because we have records. Of course, records not about our birth dates, but about these historical events, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. So those records helps us to remember all these things. In this lesson, we will learn about the importance of records, along with that the importance of dates too. Now, let us to begin the first one. Next page. Okay, now the first point is how important are dates. Before we could go to the meaning of dates, let us to learn the meaning of history. History, it means coming to know about the changes that took place over the period of time. Along with that, it is about finding out how things were there in the past and how things have changed. The best example is about transportation. In earlier period, people used to walk from one place to another place. They used to walk, they used bullock carts, horses, camels, and so on. But now we have many options like bicycles, bikes, cars, buses, and the fastest mode of traveling, that is aeroplane. With the help of aeroplane, we can reach any part of the world within short period. But in earlier period, people took months together to reach far areas or places. So what things were there? What things are there? To know about this, history helps us. Now, if it is about dates, dates helps us to know about the rulers, when they crowned, which battles they fought, and which battles they won, and the year they died, and the year the next ruler succeeded to the throne, means the next ruler became king. Then the next one is which dates. The history which is written by the British historians in India about India. The rule of each and every governor general was most important, and these histories began with the first rule of the first governor general, who was Warren Hastings, and the history ended with the last viceroy, that is Lord Mountbatten, and rest of the governor generals who ruled India during the period of British India were Hastings, Wellesley, Bentinck, Dalhousie, Canning, Lawrence, Lytton, Ripon, Curzon, Harding, Irwin, and so on. Now, how do we periodize? Before British could enter our country was ruled by the Muslims. Before Muslims could enter our country, India was ruled, Hindustan was ruled by Indian rulers. So let us to come to know how can we periodize these periods. In the year of 1817, James Mill, a Scottish economist and political philosopher, he published a large 3-volume work, and he named that work as A History of British India. In this book, he divided Indian history into 3 periods, that is Hindu, Muslim and British. As I told you, first India was ruled purely by Indian rulers, then next Muslims, then finally Britishers. After the rule of Britishers, we got a government, and till today government is ruling our country. Okay, moving away from the British classification, historians have usually divided Indian history, in the sense common historians, Indian historians, they divided Indian history as ancient, medieval and modern. Ancient in the sense the period of Vedas, and medieval in the sense it is a term which is used to describe a society where the features of a modern society like science, democracy, liberty and equality does not exist, and modern in the sense after the period of medieval, the rule of Britishers. Now, once again, let us to come back to the period of medieval. Democracy. Democracy in the sense the government that we have present, where we choose our politicians. But in earlier period, kings, they had control over the areas, over the countries. Liberty. Liberty, freedom. The people not had freedom that we have right now. And equality. The people not had equality, in the sense they followed caste system in early period. So where these things were not present, that period is described as medieval. Now, what is colonial? Earlier, British came to India just because of trade purpose. Later on, they started to make some particular places as their trade areas or business hubs, and slowly they started to conquer the country to establish their rule. While they started to control the countries, conquer the countries, some of the Rajas and Nawabs, they opposed them, and whoever opposed them, they fought along with them. Britishers fought along with those Rajas and Nawabs. They defeated them and established their rule in India. This is called as colonial. Next one is administration produces records. As I told you already, due to the records we came to know many of the things which took place. Now, the British believed that the act of writing was important. Every instruction they had, plan they made, policies they made, decisions they took, agreements they made along with some other Britishers as well as Indian rulers, investigations that they had, these are all things to be written up clearly. So, they set up record rooms attached to all the administrative institutions that it could be easy to them to find out all those records which they made and maintained. Some specialized institutions too they made to preserve these records which were most important, and those institutions were called as archives as well as museums too. In these places they maintained important records. Next, surveys become important. You may have seen some of the times people will come to your home to ask about the number of people living in your home, and some of the times educational surveys will be conducted to know about how many educateds are there. Among them again, how many educated girls are there, boys are there, school going children. And these surveys helps us to know about the population of our country. But the Britishers, they made different kind of surveys and they conducted these surveys. They called it as revenue surveys. Revenue in the sense economic. Revenue surveys they conducted in villages, and they conducted these surveys to know about topography. Topography to know about the quality of soil, the flora, the fauna. The flora, the fauna in the sense to know about vegetation and wildlife, and to know about the local histories and the cropping pattern, what kind of a cropping pattern the farmers are following. As India was country of villages, as it had many of the villages more than cities, these surveys helped the Britishers to administer the regions, because some of the areas had best quality of soil where the farmers grown good quality crops and in large quantity too, and in some of the areas where the land was not so fertile, the condition of farmers was not so good. So on the basis of surveys, the Britishers decided what kind of tax pattern should be applied in which kind of region. So these surveys helped them. The next one is, what official records do not tell. Up to here you studied that what is the positive point or what are the positive points of these records. But though records has many positive points, it has even negative points too. So let us to know about that. Actually records tell us what the officials thought, officers thought, what they were interested in, what kind of changes they wanted to bring, and what changes they wanted to bring in future, posterity in the sense future. But these records do not tells us what the people thought about the conditions or the rules that were made by the officers. It doesn't tells us what was the reaction of people about a particular rule. The best example is recently the government made the rule that is everyone has to wear helmet compulsory, isn't it? Yeah. But some of the people, they said that wearing helmet, it is not comfortable to them. Some of the elder people said we can't hear properly if someone make a horn from our backside and it may cause accident. And some people said it doesn't suits us, and so many things we got. Total whatever rules made by the government, there will be action from people's side, citizens side. But these records doesn't preserve such kind of actions or replay about those records or rules which are made by the officers. It just gives us information, what they thought, what changes they brought, all these things. Okay, if you have any queries or doubts, you can call me. Thank you.